Leagues is finally back, and it's time to theorycraft. Hang on, you don't know what a league is? Basically, it's old school RuneScape on roids. XP rates are multiplied, and drop rates too. Every league has three main things: relics that buff your gameplay, tasks that you need to complete, and a special twist. Now this week is a rerun, so the twist is the exact same as the first Trailblazer League. Basically, you can only unlock 3 world regions in the entire league, so you need to meticulously plan your route and strategy to do the bosses and activities you want to do. And this last thing is important. Things that you want to do. I see a lot of people theorycrafting the best regions or making tier lists out of the best regions and all that stuff, but in reality, if those are not the regions you want to pick, then that tier list is completely obsolete. At the end of the day, Leagues is the perfect playground to try testing out those new bosses that you've been wanting to learn, or try some content that you've never done with friends or alone, whatever. The relics that you're going to be getting this league, which are things that buff your gameplay, are going to be so strong that you can actually maybe try your first Inferno cape. I mean, I did it 2 times. Undeserved cape, man, again. So today, I've made a couple builds and recommendations for you guys to try out, depending on what your league goals are going to be. But before I get into that, let's take a look at the relics. Every time you hit a certain amount of league points, you get the choice between one of 3 relics to unlock. These league points you get by doing any league task, and trust me, you're gonna find a lot of tasks to do. Jagex already said they're building a new task list from the ground up, but you can always look at the other league task lists to see what they are like. In the description of this video, you can also find a link to my paste bin of my first Trailblazer League starter strategy. Now, again, these tasks are not gonna be the same, but it can help you get started. So when you log in, the first thing you have to do is pick one of these 3 starting relics. In the first Trailblazer League, these were divided in different classes. Basically, the first one was melee, the second was range, and the third was mage. I assume they might actually do the same thing this year. And also, I believe, like in the first Trailblazer League, that you'll be locked into these, so you won't be able to switch it later if you don't like it. So pick wisely, but the builds I've made for you guys today also slightly favor certain combat styles, so it might help you. So by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what you want. What I want is for you guys to subscribe. We're getting really close to 60K, so it'd be great, please. Since I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on goals, a video completely going over the different classes and the best regions for them is a fantastic video made by Skritic. He categorized the best regions based on what combat style you want to be playing. So if you already know what combat style you favor, check out his video after watching this one. He's making absolute banger League videos, to be fair. Way better than mine. At the end of this video, I'll also be sharing my build, but it's a bit of a weird one, and I do not recommend it. You'll see why. But again, if you don't know what you're doing yet, here are my recommendations. Don't forget we're unlocking Missalin and Karamja for free at the start automatically. This means you'll always have access to a whip, a fire cape, dragon plate legs or skirt, Tazar weaponry, obsidian armor, and a couple of other notable items. This is definitely not a bad start if you decide to go with a melee build. Obsidian armor is one of the few melee strength bonus gears in the game. But if you want this armor, you're gonna need to unlock the following areas: Asgarnia, Zeya, and Mauritania or the desert. This is the absolute best in slot gear if you pick Mauritania, but you could also get a rapier. If you'd swap Mauritania with the desert in this build, you'd go for the Osmumten's Fang. Of course, you'll also always be able to get a God Sword. This is a heavily melee focused build, being the damage carry in a raid. Now you've obviously noticed that I've put the other 2 up for change, and that is because it depends on what raid you want to do. If you want to do TOA, you pick desert. If you want to do TOB, you pick Mauritania. Easy. In the end, your best in slot armor is not going to change much, because most of it depends on Asgarnia, because that obviously unlocks the God Wars dungeon. You can get Torva, Bandos, and if you really want to, you can get yourself some Armadillo. If you're not planning on doing Chambers of Xeric at all, you can even swap out Zeya for Kandarin, get yourself some best in slot jewelry, and even rock piety. This is absolutely what I recommend people do in their first league, picking Asgarnia and Kandarin, and then just looking at what area or what boss you want to do for your 3rd region. Next up, a range build. Once again, this build is focused on you doing end-game raids, but being a bit more agile and range-focused. You have 2 main goals: completely abusing the relic system and getting a twisted bow. This build might allow you to completely abuse the Zarite crossbow special attack. Since the Zarite crossbow has a special attack that guarantees your bolt special attack to proc, with a light bearer, and if the special attack relic from last year's makes an appearance again, if it takes less special attack energy, you might just constantly be proccing ruby bolts, which sounds just completely broken and sounds just like a league. So this is one of the builds where you can just abuse the relic system. Regions for this one are Asgarnia, Desert, and Zeya. Asgarnia for the Armadillo gear and the Zarite crossbow, the desert for your Missouri gear to upgrade, and Zaya for that juicy twisted bow. Now, if we're talking range builds and you want to spice it up a little bit, there's also a very good case to make for Zaya, Wilderness, Tiranwin. If you want to be special and you don't want to unlock the base areas that everyone's picking, this might be a really cool option. The Wilderness is going to be good for the crossbow and very early money at Revenants. Don't underestimate very early money making. Tiranwin for the blowpipe and the bofa, and Zaya for rigor and a T-bow. This sounds like an insane range setup. I also believe the Wilderness is going to be really good for tasks if you have a lot of damage. If you get a crossbow and a really good range setup, you're going to be steamrolling the Wilderness bosses and completing tasks left and right. Next up, I've got another starter build. And by the way, if it's getting a bit much and you're getting a lot of information, I've divided the video in chapters, so you can always click the timeline to see which build you want to check out again, or if you want to send something to a friend, you can just give them the timestamp. And while you're down there, you can still subscribe if you want. The goal for this build is you want to learn God Wars, you want to learn the Gauntlet, or you want to do some Nyx. This setup does not have any raids in it, we're just trying to focus on the basics. I think you guys have already figured out that the regions for this build are Kandarin, Asgarnia, and Tiranwin. The range setup here would look something like this, while the melee one would also be really strong, looking like this. Plus, you will have Piety. This is a hybrid build, and it also means that your relics are not going to matter too much at the start. Even if the J-mods decide, we don't want to do this class system that we did the first Trailblazer League, you're still going to be chilling with this setup. It's a very safe pick. Kandarin and Asgarnia are very good early game picks, and Tiranwin is there if you want to learn Zulrah or the Gauntlet. Now again, this third region is still pretty interchangeable on whatever you want to do. The only relic that is really important for this setup is a relic that saves you ammo. Now we've had it every single year, so I hope that it's going to be in this league too. You're not going to be able to smith your own darts in this setup, so that relic is going to be really important to maintain your blowpipe charges. Alright, this next build is one I would play if I wasn't doing my silly build that I'll show you guys at the end. It's a magic build. And the goal here is you're the team's support player in both TOB and TOA. You're going to max out your magic damage while also having freezes to help your team. Can I remind you guys that the Tumican Shadow and Virtus wasn't even in the game when the first Trailblazer released? And magic was already pretty good back then. Well, it's gonna absolutely slap this time round. In my opinion, if you like pushing magic to the limit, this might be the most fun build. The regions are going to be Desert, Kandarin, and Mauritania. And once again, your setup is going to look something like this, with the potential of changing your Tumican Shadow for a Sanguinesti Staff, a Trident of the Sea, or a Nightmare Staff. If you just swap out Kandarin with Zaya, you can even do every single raid with this build. But do keep in mind that you do lose the Occult and the Tormented Bracelet, which is basically double the damage of full Ancestral. So you will be losing out on some damage if you do swap those out. And then we're coming up to the final build, apart from mine, which is the Point Hunter build. This is for the people that want to get a dragon trophy and don't necessarily want to have fun. They just want to have the most efficient route with a good build to get the most tasks done. So here are the regions: Kandarin, Wilderness, and Tiranwin. For point hunting, you mainly just want to avoid the content that require group activity and Mage Arena. Fuck Mage Arena. You want to have as many combat tasks as possible because these relics are going to buff your damage so much, you're going to get so many more KC per hour than you do in the main game. I already mentioned Wilderness before, you're going to be steamrolling through these boss tasks. Kandarin is going to speed you up through the early game and going to make it so that you can unlock all your regions relatively quickly. Tiranwin was around the second most points in the previous Trailblazer League, behind Fremennik. There's only a couple tasks that are relatively slow, being Zalcano and Gauntlet. But Gauntlet is going to be sped up by these relics, and Zalcano is pretty quick if you can get a good mass together. There's a couple of static grinds in Kandarin that you do want to watch out for, being 3,000 Chompy kills and 2,000 laps of Monkey Agility. Now the thing is, those are very boring static grinds that don't necessarily get sped up by relics, but they are nice to just have a break and just mindlessly click some stuff without having to try hard too much. Besides, with the Monkey Agility, you can also train another stat while training Agility, and you can do the same with the Chompies. They're nice chill tasks to do in your free time, there is no RNG element to them, and they're a guaranteed bunch of points. In this setup, I've purposely not included Asgarnia, because all the God Wars KC do take a very long time to get. I remember last league, I was triple the drop rate on Zami, and that almost cost me half my league. There is too many bosses in that region that are gonna have too many tasks, so Asgarnia is probably not that great for point hunting in the late game. I had a tough time recommending a build that doesn't include raids, but hey, you wanted points. Not fun. I've already mentioned the best area for points in the last Trailblazer League was Relica. Mostly because there weren't a lot of bosses in that region. What did you have, DKs and Vorkath? There was nothing to really get hard stuck on. so you could basically almost complete every single task in that region. This league is different, with Muspa and Duke added to the region. Problem is, you will need Desert to also do Duke. And while talking about it in the League's Discord, which is also linked in the description by the way, Jerkovsky had this to say. Fremennik is a support region. It exists strictly as support for other regions and to bolster your points with low intensity tasks. It should not be taken unless your other regions give you a primary build that you want. And on that note, my unlocks are Zeya, Relica, and Mauritania. And these things don't support each other at all. You guys want to see the max build I'm going to be rocking at the end of this league? It's this one. I'm going to have full obsidian and a scythe. Basically, I'm going to be a glass cannon. I'm going to focus ridiculously hard on Theater of Blood in hopes of getting a scythe and then completely farming DKs. Why? Because I want to. This league, I'm just going to play for fun. I'm going to get a bunch of points automatically because these 3 regions are pretty good for points. So hopefully I'll passively get a dragon trophy while actually having fun. Imagine that. On top of that, thanks to Zeya and Mauritania, I'll even be able to tribrid if I get a T-bow or a Sanguinesti staff. I just want to grind out TOB. If you guys have seen my very first Trailblazer videos, I had a ton of fun with Ingus and Zulu doing clue scroll only TOBs, clue scroll only nightmares, and stuff like that. And I just really want to relive that nostalgia of the previous league with the same guys. So I'm going glass cannon melee, hard damage carry, at TOB, whilst also being able to do Chambers of Xeric if I feel like it, now that I can actually solo it. So those are my build recommendations. Now I've got a couple notes for you guys that are pretty important, and I just wanted to put them at the end of the video so you guys have something to think about right at the end, because from this point on, you're gonna have to do your own brainstorming. I've given you the regions, but you still need to find an efficient route to get to them. So let's get into a couple notes. Your regions get unlocked by the number of tasks you complete. Your relics get unlocked by how many league points you get. Every task gives an amount of league points, so keep that in mind. Last league, it was 60 tasks to unlock your first region, so focus heavily on doing a bunch of small tasks first. The meta this league is Asgarnia, Desert, Zeya. The league Discord did a poll, and it actually won by more than double the points of the next region. Keep in mind that combo items like the Avernic Defender requires both regions to get it. So for example, in my case, where I have Mauritania but not Asgarnia, it's just gonna be an Alk for the hilt, because I can't put it on the Dragon Defender. Same with the Dragon Hunter Lance and stuff like that, so keep that in mind. In the description, there is a list of the combat achievements marked by region. Keep those in mind because combat achievements are most likely gonna be league tasks this time round. Also keep in mind that you get fairy rings from the start, automatically unlocked, which means you can go to the Abyss and get yourself an Abyssal Whip. During your acquiring of league points, you'll be leveling through the relics and you'll get a lot of passive unlocks. This time round, minigame point buffs will also be included in these passives. So if you want to get Elite Void or something from Pest Control, do that nearing the end of your relic journey, because you'll get a bunch more points. Blue scrolls will be changed to only give steps in the regions that you have unlocked, so that's great. And there is 2 extra quest unlocks with the new quests that are now included in the league, being Desert will unlock you Desert Treasure 2 and all the prerequisites, and Relica will automatically unlock you Secrets of the North for Muspa. But not Duke, as I said, so you're gonna still need Desert for that, which sucks because for my region, I would have loved to grind Duke, but I can't fit it in, unfortunately. That's what he said, or something. Fuck. Anyway, boys, that is it. I know it's a handful, I know it's a lot, but make sure to go through the video again and try to just figure out the points that I've made, see if they make sense to you. If they don't, feel free to join my Discord. We have a channel in the Discord that is open for league discussions. We'd love to have you. It's always amazing to just start brainstorming together. I know a lot of people are into that, so get into Discord, get involved. Real quick, if you guys like the shirt that I'm wearing, it's a company of a friend of mine. He just started it up, and I figured I'd just give it a shout out. Every single design is a hand-drawn piece of art by an artist, and some shirts have an up to 21% royalty that goes to the artist. It's all about the authenticity and giving back to the artists, and it's a bit of a fuck AI art kind of movement. So if you like the designs, you can use code JOR10 to get 10% off. Just figured I'd help a buddy out. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in game, in the league, or in the next video. Peace.